in the third week of March, when we abruptly closed the school and sent the children because of this COVID pandemic, we jumped into remote learning and teaching with a brief prior training by the core team led by Mr. Sumanto. We managed to take classes for a couple of months. All of us definitely should give a pat on our back that we were able to quickly jump into the remote learning with our minimum exposure for some. And majority of teachers displayed resilience, expertise, innovation, creativity, and professionalism. We crossed the firefighting stage. We were able to access the net. We are able to navigate through the Google Suite, Google Classroom, Google Classwork. We were also able to use basic tools, whatever is required for our discussion or for assessment or for our student engagement. Many teachers tried new tools. They leveraged different technological tools in order to see to it that it is appropriate for the task which is meant for effective learning or to enhance learning. We moved to the survival stage. Many of us are in the survival stage, and some of us are in the we can consider as strive stage, because we were able to explore different tools, able to bring in students to use those tools, and also able to share, able to collaborate, able to do the peer assessment. In some cases, we are able to even able to establish different types of discussion groups. But what actually is required now is we are all isolated. You are isolated. The teachers are isolated. The students are isolated. But as teachers, we should remember that we no longer needed as the source of all content and knowledge in the classroom. But we are now more necessary than ever when it comes to designing learning experiences, because that will allow students to find their own way. I'll be sharing some of the essentials which are required for our designing our online learning experiences. Some thoughts which I have, I'll be sharing some of them. Are you able to see?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The first requirement for us in this online teaching, which you need to remember, is the fundamentals to our job do not change. The fundamentals definitely do not change. Fundamentals, what I am saying now is mainly whether we are teaching remotely or distant learning or blended learning or hybrid learning or iFlex learning, whichever name we call, our fundamentals to our job do not change. What are our fundamentals? When you see our approaches to teaching and learning, we cannot compromise on our approaches to teaching and learning, because we have we need to build with students social skills, the collaborative skills, the research skills. They should be able to be inquirers. So all these skills we should not forget. Same goes for in teaching also. We need to bring in the conceptual understanding. We need to see to it that we are informed by the assessment. We need to also think that the pedagogical principles are, that strategies are implemented. We should also not forget our ACE learning principles. Our ACE learning principles give us a strong foundation how an effective learning will take place, whether it is online or offline. But here nowadays we need to remove these words like online and offline, because the learning is going to be only in two ways. It will be either synchronous or it will be asynchronous. Now, for the first important thing which we need to remember is for effective online teaching and learning, the first important thing is communication. We need to communicate to the students and to the stakeholders what is the exact way in which they are going to navigate their learning experiences. If we are not able to do that, then there will be definitely glitches in our approach. The second important thing which we need to understand is connections. Unless connections are built with the students, it is difficult for us to empower them. Connections in the mean, I am trying to address that we should be responsible for our schedule. We should be responsible for our submission of feedback. We should be responsible for us to connect on time. We should be responsible to share resources on time. We should be responsible in order to have some kind of one-to-one connections with the students in case if they require. These are all some of the methods and strategies which are required in order to build that connection. Once when we build that connection, we can definitely say that all your students will definitely participate in your learning. And at the same time, you should think that it is not covering the content, it is not delivering the content. The content what is there for each subject or for each topic, the students will be able to go through. But after that, what they have to do with the content, then your role as a facilitator comes. Your contribution comes there. So you need to devise those strategies in order to bring that in your synchronous learning, because they require the support. But whatever expectations you have with the students, whatever resources you're going to share, see to it that it is appropriate for them to finish in that time span so that they will be ready for your synchronous connections. Now, before entering into our, we are already doing our online teaching and learning, and we learned some of our mistakes, and at the same time, we also know what actually is in store for us when we move continuously on in this second phase of our online teaching and learning. The first and the foremost, as I told you, there are the communication and the connection, but there are 5 norms totally for us to follow. The first one, which I want to share is, as I told you, the building trust. The trust will be built only when there is a learner accountability. But that learner accountability will be developed only when you develop relationship of trust, the relationship of care, and you also need to keep high expectations from the students, because to make them work independently, to make them collaborate, to make them do high quality work, to demonstrate care especially, all these are expectations. But for these things, you need to give them the required time, the required place, as well as the required space for them to do their best work. I have seen in one of the feedback what Mr. Jacob has written, especially based on our parents as well as teachers' feedback. He told the students definitely should find a place where they are able to participate in this synchronous connections or synchronous learning without any distractions or hindrance. So that should be achievable, but that for achieving that, our role is also there. So you need to check on them, you need to support them, you need to explain to the parents that these are the necessary things in order to make the learning experience better and focused, and also we can turn into that high quality learning. The second very important one, because we have a menu of curricula. We have IGCSE, we have IBDP, we have ICSE, we have ISC, we have Cambridge Checkpoint, we have Cambridge Secondary. For all these curricula, what is required more is the rigor, the complexity, the challenge. Because without rigor, they will not be able to fulfill, or they will not be able to transfer the skills which they obtained in order to proceed in their assessments, or in order to show or demonstrate their evidence of learning, which will not be possible unless there is a rigor in our assessment, the rigor in our teaching, the rigor in our resources. Wherever we are touching them, you need to see that that is there. And it should be it should not, again I'm repeating, it should not be a fast-paced content coverage. The fast-paced content coverage will only deliver the text, the long instructional videos, which will not sometimes yield benefit for us. And that is the reason why we can see sometimes they are distracted, they are not interested to participate. Of course, we are aware, we are also mindful of their screen time. And you should also understand that online assessments or online learning especially is sometimes not well suited to timed content-based summative assessments like tests, because we are trying to see to it that we are able to give in an authentic way, so that once when we install, once when we are able to explore the surveillance tools and practices, we will be able to bring in those tools also in order to bring in that atmosphere for assessment. We are working on that, and even Mrs. Alexander was telling about for online assessments, we need tools, more tools are required, which we will explore and see to it that also in place once when we move into the summative assessments properly. And another important thing in this challenging students is it will be effective when students high quality content, when students use high quality content as a platform from which they can derive this cognitively complex work, and they will be able to apply their knowledge in order to demonstrate their learning outcomes. So rigor and complexity, you should not miss on that. The first important thing is build trust. The second norm for online learning is challenge students. There are different ways. That is up to you. We will be having different sessions in order to see to it, to explore ideas, how to bring in that rigor, bring in that complexity. The third one is redefine time. Redefining time is important because they are at home, so there is no meaning of classwork and homework there. So we need to remove those two words in our dictionary now, because it's like time is redefined as synchronous and asynchronous. So they will be doing, of course, during using the screen sometimes, and maybe they have to, majority of the time they'll be using the screen to find out certain things. So classwork and homework doesn't have a meaning. So it should be a synchronous work or asynchronous work. So that is why we named in all the timetable, if you see, remote learning, synchronous and asynchronous learning. But when we redefine time, there is one more important thing which we need to know, especially what we should learn synchronously and what we need to learn asynchronously, and what will be the best use of that time, or what learning experiences can be converted from synchronous to asynchronous, and similarly vice versa. So all these strategies you need to explore, find out what is appropriate for your curriculum and what is the best for bringing out that learning outcomes irrespective of your curricula which you are handling, which is very important. The fourth important, which I'll be talking more on that once when I complete my norms which are required. Support agency. Online learners definitely need time. Online learners definitely need space. They need support. Then only they'll be able to develop their independent learning skills. So it is not shifting from the brick and mortar school as it is. Of course, we have schedule for that. We have routine for that. But we should understand that this online platform will need some flexibility, because in order to design activities, in order to bring in that interaction. So the question again, when I'm telling you, is which will be the best way in order to support them. The fourth norm will be definitely diversify interactions. When you want to diversify interactions, you need to think of different ways to connect with them. Of course, it is not only synchronous, you should also connect with them asynchronously. Because the communication in an online class with a group of 10 students, 15 students, 20 students, sometimes you may not get an opportunity to find out what is the evidence of learning each one has demonstrated in that span of 45 minutes, because your attention, your focus most of the time will be to see to it what you planned you want to deliver. So in that case, what happens is the students who are on the other side of this screen, sometimes based on certain factors, they may be distracted or they may be out of focus. So in order to do that effectively, you need interactions. You need interactions both synchronously as well as asynchronously. There should be some opportunities for you to have a one-to-one session with the students. How you are going to do, what tool you're going to use is up to you, because you can explore, you can find out. Some should be a small group, definitely, but it can also be led by students sometimes, because they are the end users, and sometimes we have better demonstration of evidence of learning from them. And some can be led by us, and it should be a right interaction for the learning. You can do it in different ways. You have opportunities and tools in our Google Suite itself. You can create discussions in the classwork. If you feel that there are other tools which you want to use, even a simple email will be a good opportunity for you to connect with the students. It can be a group where you can create, like our Twin Kuntu has created a group for WhatsApp group with the group of visual arts students, especially immediately after closure, because we need to submit the visual arts portfolios. But he was able to create that group and bring in all of them into one place and able to submit those documents on time. It's just an example. We can do it in many ways. So when you consider these 5, especially build trust, challenge students, redefine time, support agency. Support agency is a main one, because to make them independent learners, which I will share some thoughts which I have. And diversifying our interactions. If you keep this as your norm for your online teaching and learning, definitely we will be able to see their progress, and definitely we'll be able to see evidence in their learning, because we need evidence to know that they are learning. That is more important. The student engagement should be seen. Now, the second part is that how to evaluate that whether we are doing that. What is considered as a high quality online teaching? What are the rubrics for that? What are the competencies for that? Which I'm trying to do it in maybe in a future sessions, because that requires some more ideas in order for us to understand. I'm just telling that also is required, because you need to know where you stand. It is not necessary that somebody else has to tell you. You can self-assess. You have a rubrics for that all over the world. And this rubrics was created by Global Online Learning Academy, Australia. So they are trying to devise certain rubrics for this online learning, and they were released the first phase of it. And I will share it with you in our forums. Now, when you're designing your online learning, there are 4 important ways in which you have to give equal importance. As I told you, the student agency is the first one. The second one is the wayfinding. The third one is the relationships. And the fourth one is when you're designing for assessment, how you're going to do that. All four requires a lot of ideas, strategies we need to put together. Some of it which I learned in some of the webinars, some of the training sessions which I have participated in these 2 months. I have collated what I've learned. So we need to explore, we need to design our learning based on these 4. The first one, I'm trying to share some thoughts, especially designing for student agency. Now, student agency, when you consider designing for student agency, the first and the foremost, as I told you, your communication and your connection both comes handy, because these 2 has to be established first. Only when you establish these 2, you will be able to build the trust. And once when you build that trust, you will be able to see to it that they are able to model flexibility, they are able to adapt the situation, and they also will provide opportunities, and they also will self-learn, and they will regulate their learning. So these are the aspects of their student designing for student agency. Especially this will help them when they are doing their learning through asynchronous experiences, because they have to learn in their own pace. In order for them to compose ideas, they require time. In order to do their internal assessment component or extended essay or TOK or projects or GP, they require ideas to collate. They need some time for that. And at the same time, when you want to make them independent learners, they have to definitely acquire those skills. And apart from that, you already seen them logging into the Google Classroom, navigating into the resources what you're providing on their own, because they know that they have to enter into this class. So that means majority of our students are already got some kind of agency in them. They proved that in these 2 months. So we have built that capacity in them. Now we need to take it forward. Now, some of the tips, or in other words, we can say strategies, or we can also say certain ideas which will help us to bring in the student agency is stay on a schedule. Stay on a schedule means the first important thing is log in into your classroom timings correctly. See to it that you are on time for all your classes, and you exit on time for all your classes also. Don't take your time from the other teachers' classes, because we have set in 45 minutes and then we have given a 10 minutes break. So don't consume the 10 minutes break thinking that student is free, because he requires takeaway time from the screen. He needs to relax. He has to go to the washroom. Sometimes he needs to drink water, or he needs to just get up and move around. So don't consume the 10 minutes time from any student. Stick to your schedule so that it becomes easy for him. So that is the first important thing to make them get that agency in them. The second one is create a digital calendar, because we have deadlines, we have internal deadlines, we have our deadlines for our boards, we have our deadlines for submission of our day-to-day assignments. We also have certain kind of activities incorporated inside, especially like Model United Nations, or it can be some literary activities, or it can be maybe orals, or a written task, or it can be a TOK presentation or exhibition. So these are the events coming up in future. It may be, at least they should be able to see what is coming next 2 weeks, or what is coming in a month's time. The best way is to build a digital calendar. We of course use ManageBack as a tool. We can make the children to see what is coming in next 2 weeks. I've just pasted the ManageBack calendar. We can also link that with the Google Calendar, or if you're using Calendly, or if you're using Outlook, we can link all of them. But the only important thing is they should be able to visualize or able to see what is coming forward in the next 2 weeks, or at least a month. If they are not clear about that, it'll be difficult for them to complete certain tasks on time, because we are online, we are isolated. So they should know everything what is coming on their way. So we will take the help of our online team. Now it's set up. We also have IT support. They need to create a calendar where every one of us are in that, and we should know what is coming forward. We all should be in digital nature. That's the first one important idea which I thought. The second one is abandon the idea of classwork and homework. So when you're discussing with them, you're actually telling them to do some task as a asynchronous experience. So see to it that otherwise they will feel that it is a burden. They should have a flow when they are doing it, because whatever they attend for 45 minutes, they have some more work to do as a student separately, because they have to digest that. They have to break it into small chunks, and they have to refer. They have to do some research. Sometimes they have to read some resources which you have provided. So keep all that in mind when you're trying to give asynchronous experience. Balance them both. Don't feel that they are studying only your subject. You should also understand that each student has at least 6 subjects. They have to concentrate for all. So the time is same for all of us. So see to it that you make a balance of synchronous as well as asynchronous learning experiences. The third one, which I felt, is creating a proactive online communication routines that are meaningful and sustainable. What are those? If you see, it is not necessary every time you need to send a mail giving a long paragraph. Sometimes they may not be in a mood to read that. It can be in different formats what you're trying to convey. You can also convey through your audio message for creating an audio message for 1 minute, or it can be even for 30 seconds. And what you intended to say, you can post it in the classwork. You have different tools for creating audio messages. Some of them, as what I use, is Audacity I use. And it becomes easy for us to create a 1 minute audio message. You can post that in your classwork for some messages or some information which you want to share. It can be a video message. Video messages to create, there are different tools now. One of the methods which we learned when we started our online learning, as well as when Sumanto presented, is a screencast one. And of course, in Google, you have a built-in, in Google Classroom, you have a built-in Screencastify, which you can record for a maximum of 5 minutes. So easily record. You can have your a face in that when you're presenting something to them. Because when you're having your online synchronous learning, you need to decide what you're going to do. What you're going to do in the sense, if you're planning on 1 unit for a week, and if you have 4 synchronous classes with the students, what you're trying to achieve in these 4 classes, what are the learning outcomes you're going to bring in, what resources the students have to go through, what are the assessment tasks which you're planning to give, what type of prior knowledge the students require for learning this, what are the technological tools the students require, what support I can give through these 4 synchronous learning. So you need to plan all that, and then you have to decide what you're going to do in your 4 synchronous learning or your experiences. You cannot be present, that is in your live session, where you are not able to complete finally what you planned. I think my point, what I'm trying to say, you're understanding, because even in your face-to-face also, the same things are required. You cannot deliver the content. You should be apprehensive of that, because content is already available with the students. So you need to devise ways so that it is the students who are going to come with the known content, and what you're going to do with that content, you need to understand and plan your lessons. So proactive online communication routines are meaningful, and that should be created, that should be sustained. And once when the student knows that you expect these things, your expectations are high, you believe in this routine, you believe in this communication, you expect every students to do, definitely they will come on online, and definitely they will follow. And it becomes easy for you to achieve whatever you feel you need to bring out from them. And then only you'll be able to notice, then only you'll be able to find out what is the evidence for the learning in your assessments or in your whatever task you're planning to give. Now, the first one which I told you is to stay on schedule, which I shared some 2-3 ideas which I felt which will be useful for us to definitely bring in that student agency. The second important thing in student agency is build community through synchronous connections. Building community through synchronous connections means especially how your learning environment is. The first important thing is of learning environment is to enhance the learning environment is when you are presenting something or when you are speaking, the first important thing required is muting the microphone. The second one may be how you're planning your delivery. You can plan sometimes, maybe in your 45 minutes, some discussion task will be there. In case if you have a discussion task, what type of tools you're going to use for the discussion task, you need to plan in advance. And at the same time, when you're planning the discussion task, whether it is a breakout room from Zoom, or you're using a chat function in your Hangout Meet, or if you are using a discussion post in your classwork, because you have a facility to post your question, and you can make the students to discuss on that question using the question post from the classwork. Whichever tool you're using, you need to give in advance the students guidelines, what they have to do with the discussion topic which you're going to do in your synchronous learning. They have to go through that. They need to have steps, what they have to do. And they also need to know what actually they have to come out with, what type of resources they have to bring in. Otherwise, what will happen is the discussion task which we planned sometimes will not be able to produce the outcomes which we planned. So we should be careful. Some of the ideas are there, like using sometimes even their physical paper as mini whiteboards also is a simple way of bringing in a synchronous learning experience using the chat box. Or you can also make the students to annotate their screens anonymously, because sometimes they may not be wanted to know their names when they are making some edits. You can also use reaction emojis, like you can also add an extension in your Google Classroom, but all the students also have to add that gestures. Sometimes you want to know whether they are understood, but if some students raise your hand telling that what you're speaking they're not able to understand, you can decide what other support you can give him. Whether it is creating a poll, even creating a poll, you have good devices in your system. Most of you, I have seen, you're using Google Forms, and some of you are using SurveyMonkey, some are using Mentimeter, and some of you are using even a poll designed by this Crystal software. So there are different ways, but for what purpose we are using, what is the outcome of that, and why we are using, it's up to you to decide whether it is appropriate to bring out the learning which you intended to do. So you should be careful in that. And synchronous connections is more important, because these are all ways in which you are trying to bring in that student engagement. A very important one which I can share is the thinking routines. The thinking routines we usually use in our face-to-face situation, but the same thing you can use it in your discussion forums, in your discussion chats, because using thinking routines, especially created by Richard from the Project Zero, will help us to get a structured conversation, because some learning activities required critical thinking. When you require critical thinking, the conversation should be meaningful. And if it is in groups, we need to have some structure in order to make them proceed. A simple one is like, I can say that see and wonder, or it can be a pair and share. There are so many thinking routines available. The next important idea which I felt is synchronous call for student engagement. A synchronous call for student engagement is something like one-to-one, where sometimes what I've seen is students are more proactive. They are open minded when they come and discuss with a teacher certain issues or certain requests which they have. You can notice if some of them are not submitting your assignments, or some of them are not able to reply to your request or reply to your questions. You need to understand that the student requires some more support. Engage with them, some kind of a one-to-one conversation with them. Definitely you'll be able to find out, and then you'll be fine after that. You'll be able to participate without any problem in a later stage, especially. And at the same time, you can also make maybe sometimes a chat option visible for him, so that you can also send messages to him privately, because he may not like feedback which you are giving sometimes visible to other students. So be mindful of all this when you're having a student engagement, especially in a synchronous setup. These are some of the tools which will definitely help you to leverage, because you have talk and comment. I have installed that talk and comment in my Google Classroom, because immediately when a student submit a draft, or when a student submit some questions or solutions to some problems, you can just record something you want to tell about that problem. You can record, and then immediately it will be pasted there in the student's portal, so that it is easy for him to go through the audio voice, sometimes audio, and sometimes the written feedback, the audio feedback is more effective than the written feedback, and if it is personal to that particular student. But be mindful here also. Always try to see to it that you give positive comments and give a constructive one, so that he'll be able to use it. We have Mentimeter. I think Manjushree will be enlightening on that. Padlet are definitely a very good tool for creating a video journal, to create a discussion forum, because we started using when Matthew Lawrence introduced in one of the sessions, and also we had our TOK, we had a TOK workshop, ATTL workshop, that is approaches to teaching and learning, that is 3 or 4 years back. And then our Zadip, I think. He's from China. So he was made us to start an account in Padlet, and still we continued using that because you have different walls there. You can paste audio video URLs, and you also have collaborative tools for you to discuss. And the phone app also available for Padlet. Zoom, of course, is a good one, but since we are using Google Classroom, but you can also use that in case if you want to have some breakout sessions with the students, because breakout rooms are very powerful there. Of course, Google Classrooms, there, Google Suite or the Google Classroom, I think there are some more features they're going to introduce in the beginning of September, so we can expect more. Adobe Spark is again a good one, where you can drag and drop templates for students to create videos and visuals, and it will help you in demonstrating their conceptual understanding. And even Canva. Canva is also a tool for conceptual understanding, because we should not forget that finally the students should be able to understand the concepts conceptually. Conceptually, they need to understand. Then only they'll be able to transfer those skills for their different types of tasks which they are having. Bringing the world to your classroom, very important one, because at this time it is ideal for us to bring in guest speakers inside our classrooms. You can you have a variety of people in our community, especially we have approximately 200 teachers with us. We have a good team of leadership. We have members. We have Mr. Jacob, who is taking great initiative in bringing this online, building this online infrastructure. We can bring in certain people's recorded messages, or we can bring in sometimes live. Even you can bring in different experts in certain fields. You can request them to give maybe a 2 minutes or 5 minutes information on certain things which you want, and you can present it, because the world is now unlimited. It is open to you to do wonders. So it's not, it's restricted. You may think that we were in an OT, we were in a remote place, we find difficult to bring in guest speakers. Now all the barriers are removed. You can do wonders in this. So these are some of the tips which I felt which will help us in bringing in student agency, because I am focusing on student agency. And first I told the communication and connections is important. The second one is once when you do these two, building trust we will be able to establish, and all the 4 norms if you're able to follow. And then if you're bringing in student agency in your learning experiences, definitely they will be independent learners. Sometimes we feel that the next idea what I felt is students can lead the sessions, because we have a good group of students in every class where they have a lot of energy, lot of ideas, lot of some of them are they are what I can say is freaks in technology. They can hack anything. They can even they can do many wonders using technology, and they make videos in a span of even 1 minute with great ideas. So you can make use of those students who have good technological skills, good intelligence, critical thinking skills, to lead other students in certain discussions. So that will make your work easier. At the same time, their explanation, sometimes students may understand better sometimes. And we usually do that because when you had collaborative sessions in face-to-face, we used to do this. But we need to continue this in this online mode also. So far, I've given some ideas on synchronous connections. Now, when it is asynchronous, also we have different ideas in which you can build in. You can ask students to record an explanation for a specific question. It can be in the form of a video or an audio, and you can tell them to send it after a span of some time. You can also create a question and a visible routine thinking and make them to discuss maybe whenever their time gets. It can be a span of 1 week on a topic, especially a topic or a title in TOK essays can generate a lot of ideas, a lot of ways of knowing, a lot of areas of applications into it, and it will benefit everyone. You can also ask students to reflect on their understanding, because reflection is one of the key component in learning, and one of the key component in knowing whether one key component in student agency. You need to make a student to self-reflect. Especially, we call this as metacognition in our approaches to teaching and learning in a diploma program. And we also adopted that for our whole school. If you see your unit plan or in your curriculum map in your Atlas Rubicon, you can see we have built in that ATTL skills for you to incorporate. So reflection, they can also create a learning journal. They can also create an e-portfolio. Of course, when I was having a discussion with Mr. Jacob, he was mentioning that he was using Evernote as a tool for making notes, for having different storage, even Dropbox he is using. So there are different tools which we can use it again for, no, especially this Evernote is a good tool for you to copy the URL and put it there so that it is there for you to refer which URL you assessed on a particular day. So the date, time, the author, everything comes there. So it becomes easy for you to do some structure essays. You need to also create asynchronous experiences for answering their conceptual questions after learning experience. Because to finally make the students understand conceptually, you require a lot of strategies to bring in. So you need to plan that, and sometimes that happens in asynchronously. Ask students to engage in a discussion about a prompt, which I told you that you can do it with different methods. What method is better for solving a quadratic equation, and why? If you give, you will get a lot of ideas from students, from teachers, from the world. I covered some points on student agency, just to give you an idea. There are a lot of ideas on wayfinding, a lot of ideas on relationships, a lot of ideas on assessment. Assessment becomes a major component because we need to assess finally. And I will not have time to cover all of them. I'm just touching on a little bit on wayfinding. When you're designing for wayfinding, you have to assume like this, especially when I travel to this international airport, whether it is Dubai or whether it is Singapore or whether it is Atlanta or whether it is Amsterdam, what I've noticed there is without asking any person for any help, you can find the gate what you want. You can find the washroom, you can find the restroom, you can find the eating outlets, you can also find the immigration, you can find so many things in the airport with the signboards which they have created. So in other words, what I'm telling is the navigation is so smooth. The navigation is so smooth. So when you're designing your online learning experience, your resources, your classes, your Google Meets, your questions, your assessments, your assignments, see to it that it is for smooth navigation. I have seen in many of your classes, especially in Google classwork in these couple of months, that many teachers have created week-wise classes, which is very good. Week-wise, when you create, you know that what actually you're intended to do that week, and you're actually following the Atlas Rubicon. At the same time, all the resources required for the topic are there in that week, and you also designed when you're going to have your Google Meet, and you also designed what all resources the students have to go through, and you also designed what type of assessments you're planning to give. So if everything is in one place and everything is digestible, it is in chunks, then definitely students who are not able to grasp many things in their synchronous learning definitely will be able to go through in their time, and they will be able to find out. So wayfinding is very important. And finally, I want to tell whether we are a curator or a dumper. Why I felt this is very important is I'm giving an example. I just wanted to find out from my social media link how to make sushi and it's a Japanese food, and how to learn how to cook that food, sushi. And to my surprise, I got about nearly about maybe 8 to 10 links. And those links, I'm amazed to each link provides certain ideas about this, how to learn, or what are the benefits of this sushi also. And all these awesome list of sushi resources I collected are so many. All these are in the HTTP format. and I wanted this for other friend to learn, so I can give this idea to him. But what my friend has done is he opened the first one, read something, and the second one, half of that he read, and by the time he got bored, and he never opened the other URLs. And the best one is there are the last two, because the last one will get for the beginners how to learn how to make that recipe sushi for beginners. But I put it there, and I'm not given any clue of that. But in case if I made like this, getting started with sushi, with only 4 short videos, and also I'm giving a short write-up on that, what actually it means for that video. The students will be able to read the synopsis of that, and then they'll be able to click on that and learn. And here I put the right way to eat sushi here. So some pictures, the same thing only, but it is not named as an URL, because sometimes URL will not give us what actually we want to convey to the students. And even when I upload any document in the WhatsApp or any social media, I will rename it, because when you take the URL as it is, what is that inside you will not know. So I'll rename it as it is IBDP May 2020 component grades. Otherwise, in IB, they'll name in a different way. We will not know what is that in that document, and many will not be ready to open that. So the same thing goes for when we add resources in our Google classwork, or when we share resources with our students. Be mindful that your resources should be short, your resources should be effective, you should attract them. Even I think nowadays most of you will have a Netflix connection or Amazon Prime. We just open that. And before you click on that any episode or any movie, you get a trailer, a short video popping up. It is just to attract you that you will be getting into that video. The purpose of creating like that is to give you an idea of what actually it contains. You can read the 2-3 lines of the synopsis of that movie. The same thing goes with when you share it online, because the students will find it difficult when we share more and more resources without arranging them for what purpose, and without attracting them for which one you want them to read. So less is more. Here I'm quoting Peter Gitton's word. When we had this international certification, we showed so many things to him, and the first important thing he shared is less is more. If you are using 4 tools, learn them thoroughly. Learn for which purpose each tool is used. Enhance learning of that tool properly, so that it becomes easy for you to communicate or use it for your better purpose. Finally, I want to the teacher student well-being is based on teacher well-being. So the student well-being begins with teacher well-being. So you need to take care of yourself, because in this pandemic situation, you need to take care of yourself, because we don't know what is in store in future. So I have few tips there also. 4 tips I have. The first one is gratitude. As soon as you get up, because I used to do now, because by seeing all these disturbing news every day, what we are able to, if I'm able to eat 3 times a meal properly, if I'm going to do exercise daily, if I'm able to take bath in a hot water, if I'm able to be with my family together, these are all great things happening in this COVID time. So gratitude is very important. When you think about that, definitely you will feel more happier. The second one is TCOS. The expansion of that is take care of self. I'll repeat again, take care of self, TCOS, which is very important, especially in this disturbing situation. Try to see that you wash your hands at least 6 times for 20 seconds. Try to see that you maintain that 1 or 1.5 meter social distancing. Wear your mask. These are all very important, because you cannot neglect. And at the same time, see to it that you maintain your exercise routine, whichever way you're going to do, whether it is at home, whether you're doing yoga, whether if you have space to walk, you do it in your, but don't go outside and tell that in our school they shared that you can go and walk, and then they'll put case on you. So be careful that. So, but I'm trying to say that you can do something at home, because to take care of yourself. Especially the other one is getting brain breaks. because you need to get some brain breaks also. You cannot continuously think sometimes. So walk for some time. No, if you like to cook, help your spouse in cooking. Deepa will get angry if I tell that. Yeah. Digital detox, which is another important one, is digital detox, because we are online now. We are 24 hours sometimes, and you need to set the boundaries here now, very clear. When you say that you want to have a one-to-one meeting with your student, set the boundary, what time, which part of the day, but stick to it. Don't simply say that I am available 24 hours, and then what will happen is night 11:30 some student will tell, can you come online, I am free now. Another student will tell night 1 a.m., next student will be 2 a.m. So you should set boundaries, and you also say, you have to tell them that they also require rest. So digital detox is also very important, because the screen time is not that much good. You cannot be gluing to your screen continuously. So you need breaks. That's why we provided breaks 10 minutes in between, and also see to it that you take your digital detox. It doesn't mean that you have to switch off your mobile, or you have to switch, you should move away. But I'm telling mainly, especially your night timings, I'm telling, especially from night 10 to morning 5:30 or 6 o'clock, you can definitely take that digital detox. You can follow that. The fourth one is relationships. Yeah, the relationship, what I'm mentioning is different from the relationship which I mentioned in the first slide. Your relationship is, we are all one family. We are helping each other. We are there to help you, and you are there to help us. So any support you require, anything you have issues regarding your laptop or Wi-Fi connection, or planning your lesson effectively, or how to make that outcome visible in the students, we are all there. We are all there to help you. So approach us, and definitely with the initiative of Mr. Jacob, we have Manjushri Manjushri will be leading the team, and we have two groups, one technical and one academic IT support. We all will join together, and definitely we will see to it that we are moving from this strive stage to the thrive stage in a couple of months, and then we will be able to move to the arrival stage, and finally to the revival stage. So all the best for your online teaching and learning. And you can also refer to the what is that a document which was shared by Mrs. Alexander yesterday, especially about the guidelines given by Human Resource Department of our country, Human Resource Ministry of Human Resource, and they have created one flow chart where what all open educational resources are there and for what purpose. Last 2 pages, I think. Go through that; it is a good one. And second one, we have popular FOSS tools. FOSS means it is called as free and open source softwares. There are so many free softwares, and again they're grouped in such a way that it's like a mind map they make. It'll help you to understand which tool is good for which purpose. So kindly go through that document also. It will help you to understand better. And finally, when you're learning daily, when you're in this new uncomfortable zone, it is like learning a cycle. Don't worry, make mistakes, but learn. That is very important. Thank you, and all the best, and good day. Take care. Over to Deepa.
Thank you, Mr. Suresh. Thank you, teachers. We'll take a break. I'm reminded of all the years when I used to